All right, so I guess we'll start.
10 minutes late, yeah.
Yeah. So I have this little thing that we're supposed to read at the start of every meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. The City of Easthampton would like to remind everyone that wearing your mask when you cannot maintain at least 6 feet of social distancing is still very important to prevent a surge of COVID-19 and the need to go back to stricter precautions. Please wear your mask, maintain your space, and wash your hands. Okay. So I sent out the minutes. Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes?
Looked good to me.
Looked fine to me.
Okay. So I have a motion to accept the June 22nd minutes.
I move we accept the minutes from June.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Why don't we just hop right to Jeff so he doesn't have to stay all night? Jeff is here to talk about the Dunkin' Donuts project down at Route 5. There's a long ways to go from what I understand, but he wanted to come and give us a little update.
Thanks, Barbara. And, you know, as I was sitting here, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that, you know, I'm not here representing the applicant. I'm just trying to help bring information to the Rail Trail Committee, you know, to share with you guys. It wasn't really a formal request to get this. I mean, I made a formal request to make sure that it was on the agenda so that we could discuss it. I think I want to make clear that I think the absence of the applicant is not something that should be seen as a negative. I didn't necessarily suggest that they had to be here. I put a suggestion out to them that maybe they should reach out to the Rail Trail Committee, and they didn't, which is fine. And so I made the proactive attempt with Barbara to put it on the agenda so we can talk about it. That's how the open meeting law works. As Barbara said, it's pretty early in the process. So the planning board just held their first meeting on the project. Sorry, I'm gonna look. Last week, been a whirlwind. It was last Tuesday. And you know, from my perspective as the city planner for Easthampton, I mean, you know, I meet with people as a matter of my job. I meet with people generally before they submit an application, and so you know, I did have meetings with these folks a couple times, probably 2 times, and you know, in my observation of looking at it, and this is where I put out the idea of like, well, what about, you know, would you ever be willing to put in some parking spaces in the back that might serve the rail trail? I do that actually with a lot of projects. So it's not something that's necessarily unique to this. I'm always trying to look at ways that a private development can provide some other public benefits. And so they were generally willing and agreeable to the idea. And so that's where I think there is a gap in information, is from that idea to the plans being prepared. So I will say I did get the application, and my job at that point was to process it, so it started. And then the planning board started discussing it last Tuesday. So I think that there are a lot of details that are yet to be ironed out. And I think what came up at the planning board meeting last Tuesday was potentially a lot of tree clearing in the back of the property in order to accommodate additional parking spaces. So I have a site plan that I can share the screen. We are talking about it's really important to separate a couple things, which is the proposed Dunkin' Donuts. I think they're just calling it Dunkin'. The proposed Dunkin' can entirely fit within their private development parcel. The area that we're talking about is actually the city-owned strip of land.
Just unmute. It's unmute. This is unmute.
That the rail trail resides on is a city-owned parcel. So I just want to be clear in kind of walking us through this, is that there's an elongated process. If any of this were to take shape, it would go beyond the planning board, and it would go beyond the Rail Trail Committee. It would go to a full city council process for city council to get an easement and really determine whether this was fully within the best interest of the city. So Barbara, does it make sense? Can I share my screen now? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yep. Let me,
Where's your video thing?
I don't know what a video thing is. I don't know anything. I don't.
okay. I think it's John. I think John's having some technical difficulties, but
What do you do?
if you can see on this screen is a depiction of the site and the area that we're talking about. You can see the rail trail on the top here. It's like a hashed out area. That's the actual paved rail trail. And then the important notes are this property. Can everyone see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a boundary line. It's a property line. And then this is the back of the Duncan parcel here. So there's a fair distance here that is all within the city right of way. And so that's generally the area that we're talking about tonight, which is, could there be additional parking spaces added on city property to help support the rail trail? And that was always the idea of bringing this up. And if I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but I think we're going from concept to possibility and then process, but we have not finished. We've barely even started the process of looking at whether this is viable.
I said this. Be able to see everybody.
I want to see you.
Right.
I can get to this. I'm scrolling through the plans here, trying to get to the right one. What got raised at the planning board meeting was very good questions and observations about the potential for tree clearing in the back. And I know Barbara sent out some photographs, and I have another one, but I think to just kind of focus on this for a moment, to get everyone oriented. So all these boxes here, the BW is bottom of wall and the TW is top of wall. So it's really hard, and we have not done, so the planning board asked for more information. That's first and foremost, and they're not continuing this hearing until August 25th. The planning board asked for more information about the nature and the type of trees that are in this area. So I think that was what was identified, is that trees would need to be taken out in order to make this part of the project happen. So if you're on the bike path, you can see the next hashed line, this dashed line over here, the topography line. And then the second one in, it does reveal that the wall facing the bike path.
Okay.
And that's the information that we don't really know how many trees would need to be taken down. If you were on the bike path, it would be a wall that would be facing you. So I think that was raised, that's what was raised at the planning board in terms of concerns and questions about the potential impact. So before I will definitely yield for questions, but I had this is actually really complicated to navigate. So Barbara had some photos. This is the photo that I share with the planning board. So you have the beautiful Manhan sign here, the no motor vehicle sign, and then right behind that, it's this example of this tree here. I'm guessing it's like a maple. It's not small. You know, the main question is, what would have to happen here to make that retaining wall work? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Getting confused. So there's a lot to this, and I will stop for a second to have you guys ask me some questions so I can get some guidance.
Well, how close is the wall to the bike path?
Okay.
The proposed wall or possible wall?
Right. Yeah, we call it a potential wall, a proposed.
Okay.
I'm looking for something on this map that would be a scale. Apologize. One of these has some setbacks denoted. I would use that as the reference point.
Even if it's an approximate, I mean,
Yeah.
Are we talking 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet?
Yep. So this image here that's up on the, I'm not sharing screen. I mean,
And how tall is the wall? I didn't get a
Right.
chance to look.
Yep. Those are all good questions. If you look at this parking space, it has the dimension of 9 feet wide. And I would say that if you put that this way, between the wall and the bike path at the closest point, I would say we're talking about 9 or 10 feet.
Okay.
And then as you get closer to where the parking area is, the sign, if you can see this little image right here is the rail trail sign. And then they're proposing a walkway that would go down a set of stairs to the proposed Duncan site. So I would say it's close to point, I would guess 9 to 10 feet. And that's information that's that's definitely information that needs to be clarified.
Mhm.
So
So
then
if, let me ask one last quick question. If the tree is within that 9-foot, 10-foot space,
Mhm.
does it still need to be removed for other reasons because of clearance or roots or whatever?
Yeah, that's the ultimate question that was asked at the planning board, and it needs to be determined. I guess to think this through, usually the way that I would recommend people approach this is that it might be the worst case scenario, is that to excavate for that wall would likely disturb tree roots there. So without further information, the assumption is that that could be potentially that entire back of the area that, let's see, this entire area here on the image would become cleared. There would be some landscaping between the bike path and a wall, but you would see, instead of here, you would see a retaining wall of some sort. So
Jeff, can I comment?
yes, I assume so. Barbara, is that okay?
Sure. Go ahead, Beverly.
As I understood it from the planning board meeting, that wall at the back was going to be 10 feet tall. On the sides facing Route 5, it was going to be 6 feet tall and then 10 feet at the back. And I've counted, there are 5 mature maples at the back there. And I would envision those having to come down. And on the other property, where the entrance is going to be, there are about 12 mature evergreens. So we're talking about losing, I think, a lot of greenery back there. And you would end up having a clear view from Route 5 right through to East Street.
Yeah.
So Jeff, if the parking space idea went away,
Yep.
then those trees would be able to stay. Is that probably true?
I wrote, this is embarrassing, but I wrote my sticky note. My question, I would ask it a little bit differently, Barbara, but I appreciate that, is a retaining wall necessary at the back of the Duncan property, without these parking spaces? I'm guessing that a retaining wall is necessary, yes, but that green space on the city parcel would likely remain. However, that should all be confirmed, as part of due diligence moving forward. I was just going to share the screen one more time. So there is a fair amount of space between. Sorry, I know this is cumbersome. This entire area, I suspect that on this bold black line here, that a retaining wall is still going to be necessary. It just might not be as tall, and it might not go into the city property. Mm-hmm. So I think going forward, there's a question about whether parking spaces will be helpful to accommodate people trying to access the rail trail, or whether kind of the other components of it are, it's a balancing.
Could I comment again? The access to those parking spaces are not going to be from the rail trail. They will be from East Street, from the main entrance to the Duncan, which is right across from Mrs. Coulis's driveway. So how would people know that there were spaces for the rail trail that were at the back of the Duncan? It is kind of strange.
Yeah,
I Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Sorry,
Go
no,
ahead.
it's fine. No, Barbara, go ahead.
Well, I see that, like, to come from the parking spaces down to the bike path, there, you have to go downstairs. So, like, if you have your bike, you're not gonna probably want to go down the stairs. I know they can have those little rails on the sides of the stairs, but,
Yep.
you know, it doesn't really, it seems like if you have to go down the stairs, it's not gonna be really that convenient for people with bikes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm really sensitive to making sure that I am not representing the developer. I'm representing the
Right.
city's interest that, you know, there's a path to a bike rack at the top. So in theory, you could park your bike on a bike rack and go down. The conversation did come up about having the rail to roll a bike down.
Mhm.
My goal is to see if this is an amenity that will help us. It does seem like it's complicated, so I think there are multiple steps still to determine whether this is feasible or desirable.
I liked Barb's idea.
Okay, I'm sorry.
With
Yep.
that rail there, I thought that was a good idea. I mean, they have them in Northampton.
They do. So, I mean, could the stairs, that could be there even if there were no parking spaces?
Yeah, you know, I think we're like, I would say this if the applicant were here, but I think we're going to be walking the line. You know, they will, if tree removal becomes a significant issue that is enough to dissuade the idea, you know, they're not going to, I don't expect them to put any other amenities in there. The people will have to, so there's a convenience factor, whether or not you would ever choose to go to Dunkin' yourself, a person on the bike path would then have to down this concrete walkway along Route 5. The developer is proposing to upgrade the sidewalk that faces along East Street. It would have to cross the entrance to the pump station and then up along the side, and then you would enter Dunkin' here. I think, you know, we could talk to them about a simpler path there, and maybe they'd be agreeable. Otherwise, I think people are going to find their way through. I mean, I would like to yield the floor in a minute because I feel like I'm not trying to dominate any conversation. I see someone in the waiting room. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I had a comment or a question.
Yeah. Some of that vegetation is not very desirable. I mean, it's all an invasive species anyway. So there are a couple of mature trees that are nice, but the rest of that is just,
Right.
It's not very desirable anyway.
No, I think it's just the couple of large, nice maples. Yeah, there is a lot of junky stuff there, but those two true, you know, they're mature, nice maple trees.
Right.
Yeah, and I personally would hate to see those go.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a benefit to having a buffer of greenery between the rear of the proposed building and the rail trail, because if you've got cars circling around, you know, to pick things up through the drive-through, you're going to get a lot of auto exhaust. And I think without a buffer of greenery, if you're coming into the trail or coming off of the trail there, you know, you're being exposed to a lot of auto exhaust. And I think it would be better to have that buffer of greenery.
And also for aesthetics. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, do we really want another big wall like we have behind the mills, which is, don't get me started on that. But, you know, I'd rather see trees and bushes personally. I think people use the trail for a certain experience. And I think the experience is to be outside in nature and enjoy nature.
I agree with that. I mean, the parking spaces are nice, but at what cost? You know, you got to kind of weigh what's better, what's more important to the trail. We do have parking already. Do we really need more? Even though it's informal parking, it seems to work.
I am down there every single day, and I can tell you there usually is plenty of parking, especially in the mornings. But there are more than 2 maple trees there. There are 5 maple trees, and that would change that area an awful lot. I don't see the advantage, especially since we just finished the benches, of looking at a 10-foot wall when you're sitting there. And a lot of people come down, ride their bikes down, and sit there for a while before they turn around and go back up. I agree with Dave that aesthetically it really is not going to be very attractive. And it also will impact the neighbors because they're going to get a lot more noise without the buffer of those trees there.
Can I also add a comment?
Sure.
This is Keely Sexton. I live next door at 15 East Street. And my question is actually whether the proposed wall would be on city property, and if those spaces were not granted to them, would it then move back from the bike path onto the property that they actually own?
I think that's true. Is that true, Jeff?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's true, Keely, that this would be extra work towards the bike path that it's not required for Duncan to do that. I don't know if you're on the beginning. I mean, I'm just trying to find out, and this is helpful in terms of understanding desires, but try to find public benefit for private development projects. So, did I freeze up?
So Jeff, I understand that there's going to be a reassessment of the traffic patterns. Did we lose Jeff?
Jeff, are you still?
I think I'm back. I'm back.
He's back.
Your picture isn't, but you are.
I turned off my picture because my Wi-Fi is very sketchy.
Okay.
So the traffic patterns are going to be reevaluated for that site, is that correct?
Yes, so if, I think I'm freezing up again.
If I could interject, there was a request from the city engineer and the planning board of a peer review of the traffic patterns, because the traffic study that they did was done on January 23rd, and it was done in one day, which is not necessarily the true picture of the amount of traffic that goes through that intersection.
Well, I guess I would be concerned about how that might impact people who are going into or coming out of that end of the rail trail, including people on bikes who sometimes will actually cross the road on the shoulder. And just in terms of what the impact of safety of accessing both the parking area and then just bicyclists through that area will be. Because I think that should also be part of that peer review.
Well, I'm back. I think I didn't hear the beginning of David's question, but David, could you restate the question again? I think I missed the beginning of it.
So my concern was just in terms of how the increase in traffic will impact people, the access and egress to that end of the rail trail and the parking area, both people on bikes as well as, people who park their cars and then either walk or bike on the trail.
Yeah, I mean, and then I heard the response. The planning board is going to seek a peer review of the traffic study, but I guess, I want to caution everyone's expectation. I mean, the way the initial thought process was on bike path parking is that those people are going to be infrequent. They're going to go there. They might park in the Duncan, this proposed lot. They park there. They'll be on the path for quite a period of time. So the traffic study is, I just want to make sure everyone's expectation is reasonable, that the traffic study will not pick up people parking for the bike path. I think it's very low. It would be a very low number in comparison to the hundreds of trips that they're talking about for the Duncan. But it's helpful for me. I mean, I think as this conversation unfolds, I mean, what I want to be clear with everyone here is that the likelihood that this gets pursued goes down and down and down. I mean, the developer agreed to show it as a potential community benefit, but I don't think that they need to. It's definitely not necessary for their project. So,
I mean, if they wanted to be really do something for the community, they could propose some parking adjacent to where it is now. You know, a few extra spots back by the rail trail, but to have it in their parking lot, I think is less useful.
Yeah, but the city doesn't own any of that parking, so the rail trail is a little vulnerable over there without actual parking on a property controlled by the city. So
that's a good point. Is that owned by the utilities?
Yes, I think it is.
it's either the utilities or Mass DOT.
Okay.
Well, anybody, Peter, Steve, you're both muted. Do you have any comments on it?
Well, I just wonder where we go from here. It sounded to me like most of the people on the committee preferred the trees over the parking. So where does that put us? Is the city and the Dunkin' Donuts, are they committed to this? Are they, unless we make our voice heard, is it going to happen regardless of what we say, or what's the deal?
Barbara, do you want me to take it? I mean, I think it's a good question, Stephen. I think there's no straightforward answer to that. As the facilitator of process, you know, I would talk to the developer and say that this is probably not going to garner a lot of support, and what I would expect them to do is to do the tree survey for August 25th, and I think the main question that I heard is there any way they could do this without taking down the two, 3, or 5 maple trees in the back? Like, I think that's a huge question.
Okay.
And that's how the planning stages work. Is that might be question number 1. And if they say, am I frozen or am I good?
You're good.
Sorry. If they can keep the trees, then I talked to Barbara very briefly, but maybe they come back to your committee in September and show you what that looks like. If they can't keep the trees, then I think I hear, I think I have a clear understanding that it's not really going to be that desirable. Mm-hmm. So again, I think, Stephen, to your question, I mean, it's not a done deal. This is definitely an option, and I think the full process would be that the planning board, if they really wanted to push this idea, the planning board could approve it as part of the site plan, but then it would still need to go to city council, and city council would need to accept the easement. So there's a couple steps. I guess my last thought, I apologize if I'm not being clear, would be for members of this group to attend the August 25th meeting of the planning board. I asked the applicant to submit plans and information a week before. So what I was hoping to get was plans and information by August 20th. So I can share that with Barbara. I can make sure that kind of this committee sees what that might look like. And then you as a group, individually or as a whole, might be persuasive to the planning board to just say, you have concerns or questions.
Do they meet by Zoom as well?
Yeah.
Jeff, would an easement be necessary from the council if the parking and the trees were not part of the project?
If you did something hypothetically like a path and a staircase, that would still require an easement. But if they did nothing to make the connection, then there would be no easement necessary. I think they would pull everything onto the private parcel at that point.
Okay.
For what it's worth, my husband, when he heard about this, he said, "Oh boy, I can't wait to ride my bike down there to go to Duncan." So if there is a way to have access without destroying the flora, I'm sure that would be a benefit to both the applicant and the bike path users.
Right.
Well, there isn't there? It's the sidewalk that's
Right.
But you know, people
around.
People will find the shortest way. People aren't going to want to walk all the way around.
They're not going to want to push their bike through brush and up a hill neither.
No, but they could lock their bike and run up, grab their coffee and go back. I don't know. I just see that there's going to be a beaten path and they might as well do it right. That would be my recommendation.
Well,
for what it's worth.
there is the driveway there for the sewer department, which goes right next to the little brick building. So you don't necessarily have to take the sidewalk all the way around. You can cut through there. And it would be at the base of their wall facing East Street, Route 5.
Yeah, I agree that people they'll find a shorter way to go. They're not going to go all the way out by Route 5 and go on the sidewalk. They're going to cut through to get up to the top.
Yeah. The irony, you know, I will relay a message that maybe the idea of the path and the stairs might be more palpable, but I think the location that they have shown wouldn't work because if I was going to try to share my screen one more time, I think that the location they have shown here at the very front, like closer to Route 5, I think is actually pretty close to the mature vegetation.
Yes.
I think, you know, that was, again, if I'm not clear, that was one of their requests was to survey the significant trees. But if you can see on this image, the back portion is a lot of the invasive species back here. Mm-hmm. Whereas the mature vegetation is kind of more on the front. I think that.
So maybe they could come in at the back corner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we have to be realistic that if this Duncan were to be constructed, you're going to get a lot of pedestrian traffic. You're going to get a lot of people who are going to try to get over there. And I think if we try to make out connection, I mean, if you take Duncan out of the picture, I just want the committee members to know that I am looking at a wide range of options to make connections to the bike path. Any chance we get to connect something to the bike path is going to be beneficial in the long run. So maybe this idea, maybe it needs to be scaled back to take out the parking, but the pedestrian connection, you know, we see countless examples of where the pedestrian connection has helped complement the bike path with business. And I think we don't necessarily want to lose the whole opportunity to make an actual formal connection here. But I'll kind of get off my sort of high horse to promote connections.
I agree with that. I think that would, if it was going to be up to me, that's what I would think would be good.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
It seems to me that the parking spaces that we're talking about that are going to be at the top of the staircase, even if there's a ramp to roll your bike, I think those will be a very limited use for bike path users. People aren't going to want to park up there and have to come down a steep thing with their bike. But having a staircase for people to walk up and down makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. I mean,
so if they did the staircase part and not the parking spaces, would that be a good compromise?
Yeah. I'll send that message back to the extent that I have any, ability to relay some messages here. On some level, I think the developer might be willing to talk because it's going to be far less costly and far less substantial than constructing that retaining wall. The only thing I can think of is that if they need to build a retaining wall to get the staircase in, then could be hard, and we could be in a position where they don't agree to do anything. But I do get a sense that would be okay for some people. But I guess if we could talk about a walkway and a staircase as an alternative, maybe that has a little bit more merit kind of for this group.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would even have to be a fancy, I mean, even if it can just be like a ramp or something, you know, it's not going to probably be ADA it's not going to be ADA with the stairs anyway. So, I mean, something not too fancy.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and that back corner is just Japanese knotweed. Beverly might know a little better how far those maples go down, but I'd rather not see the maples go myself. But that Japanese knotweed at that far end, by where their dumpsters are proposed, a connector down from there might work. Somebody needs to look into that, I think.
Okay.
I think where the dumpsters are proposed is really on the property at number 9, and there are some mature evergreens there that probably, if there were a wall that interfered, some of those would be coming down also. If you look beyond in the pictures, you'll see some trees sticking way up that are mature evergreens that are on the back of that other property.
So Jeff, do you think you have enough information? Or, I mean, I think you kind of get the feel of how we are tending to go. We don't have the right to take any votes. We're just giving our thoughts. So,
no, I think it makes sense. And I would encourage anyone to try to tune in for August 25th. And again, I'll try to be having the information posted on August 20th. In the meantime, I will talk to them, because I don't think that they want to push something that isn't really desirable. So I think the question to them is, would they be willing to consider a little less, just in terms of a pedestrian connection? Just being clear that they it's very easy for them to say, thank you, we'll kind of pass on the whole kit and caboodle. So it's a little bit of just a discussion piece with them to see if they're still willing to make a connection. I think it's very valuable, because I think the reality is that it'll happen.
yeah.
And it'd be better if we had a little bit of control and input over it. I think it's a lot to expect someone to go by a sidewalk all the way around or to trudge through like the DPW's, pump house gravel, chopped up parking lot road.
To me, it just makes sense that they would want to do that in a way, because it's going to encourage people to go up there. It's going to show that they're, supporting a community facility. I guess I can't understand why they wouldn't want to do it, because it's really going to benefit them as well as people on the path. That's just my thought.
Right. I mean, I agree with you, Barbara. And just for purposes of awareness, they did discuss potential additional litter in the area on the bike path, and I think the owners of the applicants seem generally agreeable to monitoring litter in that vicinity. And so,
would they like to take over emptying our trash can? Because it would be wonderful.
It's possible. I think they seem very agreeable. I mean, I think there are some serious concerns with the project overall. So this is sort of a detail in a project with a lot of other moving parts. But I think if the other moving parts can be resolved and there's an actual project at the end of this, then I think the applicant seems like a partner who would help work with the rail trail on those other issues. But I think it's going to still be a while till we get know whether they actually have a project at the end of the whole process anyway. But
okay, all right. Well, thanks for filling us in, Jeff. We'll see who can make it on the 25th. Send me whatever you can, and I'll pass it along.
Okay, that sounds really good, and I appreciate everyone on the committee kind of chiming in. And again, this is just the idea of a discussion. So I think there's nothing set in stone. it did take this point in time in the process to make sure that they were willing to even talk about it. So maybe some people feel like it's cart before the horse, but there was willingness to try it, at least from the applicant's perspective. So that's good.
Okay. All right. Terrific.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Great. All right.
You can stay.
I think ordinarily I would. I'm kneeling on my floor right now, and I think I'll pass, but thank you very much. I think I probably owe you guys some updates on Ferry Street, maybe in September.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask you if there was anything new that we need to know to update our website.
The
Yeah,
one thing,
please look, because I went by there today and it looked like they had opened up the alternative path.
correct.
Yeah, maybe you could. Real quick.
I wasn't aware of that. Sorry, I don't know if I'm changing agenda items, but I know that right now, if you're crossing Ferry Street, it goes uphill.
Right.
So it won't, that's not permanent. The road got raised up and the bike path will get feathered out going in each direction.
Okay.
If you've seen the videos, the funny word is the chicane.
Yeah.
So if the change in direction, the bike path will get worked backwards a little bit and it'll moderate that incline. But
Okay,
I wasn't aware that they.
on Facebook about that today, so that's good. That's good to know. People were asking about that.
Okay, yeah, and I will check on the redirection, the temporary side of that. I will talk to we have a weekly meeting, so I will have a contractor meeting on Wednesday, and I'll ask if that's fully in effect. I wasn't aware that was happening this week, so.
Yeah.
The idea with the temporary path is that that's where pedestrians and cyclists will go while they do the work on the chicane part. I mean, the project is moving fast. So, we are actually hoping that they'll be done with almost everything by the fall. So, it's just going very fast. So I'll double check and I'll reach back out to you, Barbara, and can share information.
Yeah, I just happened to drive by today and there was large equipment right there, like where the bike path was crossing. So I assumed that they were routing people around the other way.
Okay, that's good for me to know. I wasn't aware of that. It's a big construction project, so there are going to be times of the day that it is hard to cross, but we've expressed to them the importance of keeping it open for people to pass.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. All right.
Jeff.
All right. So do we have any trail maintenance update? John, you got anything for us?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, yeah. I'll give you a little update of what I have done on a trail in the last couple of months. First thing was on Coleman Road, the entrance. A lot of work to cut back a lot of overgrowth everywhere, and the roses, fertilized them, and did some weed whacking there too, especially along the fence where there's a lot of overgrowth coming over into the lawn. And then on the other end of Coleman Road by South Street, where that arborvitae hedge is, it's pretty well overgrown, and some of the hedge was actually bent over into the trail. So I cut back some of that, but there's a lot more work there, and there's a lot more work over where the fences are for the barrier fences. It's all overgrown with vine vegetation. And across the street at the entrance to the South Street entrance to the South Street section where the bench is, there was a lot of sand built up, washed down on a trail. So I scraped that down and swept it up, and there was a lot of rubbish behind the bench, so I collected the rubbish. So there's all on the trail, there's a lot of overgrowth. It's got to be tended to sometime pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I have reached out to the DPW a couple weeks ago, especially the Route 5 end, maybe it was longer than a couple weeks ago, and told them that we really needed to have that cut back. I talked to the acting interim superintendent today, and he was going to double check to see what the status of. I said, you know, at this point of the year, it's probably getting pretty grown over most of the trail.
Yes.
He didn't get back to me, but I'll let you know what he says. There was a large tree limb that came down at the Route 5 end. Beverly had told me about that. It was right after that bad weather last week. And
Yeah, I looked at that, and it was
Yeah.
somebody cut it up.
Okay. The highway department, I told them if they could go down, and they were dealing with other storm issues that day, and they were going to try to go down and get that off the trail. So that's good. That's good. But as far as the brush cutting, things are growing like crazy this year, and it does need to be done, but they do know about it.
Yeah, I mean, even when the town goes through there, we are definitely going to have some kind of a work party, at least one or two, because there is so much overhang, and they can't get everything with the machine.
Yeah, they can do a lot better than they used to, though, so that's good.
Yeah.
Rich and Beverly did another 2 benches, the one by Union Street and behind the condos near Richard's Fuel. They just got those finished yesterday. So they've done 4 benches.
Wow.
They know that there's one more down at South Street, but I think they're both ready to take a little break from that. So they all...
they look good. They look good anyways. Yeah.
They do. They look really great. If you haven't taken a look at them, they're really nice. Yep. They did a good job. It was quite the project.
Especially in this heat. I can't imagine doing that kind of work. Must have been tough.
Yeah, Beverly did the painting of the actual benches. She primed it and then she painted it. But, you know, it's been so hot that it's been hard to find the time. But
no, they look beautiful.
Yeah, they do. They do. So anything else, John?
Not that I know of. No, I'm all set.
Okay.
Well, do the cracks fall under maintenance, or is that a separate item? I don't have the agenda.
Yeah, it can fall under maintenance.
Okay.
David, you went out and marked the, maybe you can tell what you did.
Well, I marked some of the routes over by Millside Park with white paint, but I ran out of the white paint. And I'm like, there's definitely some routes more closer to Union Street, over behind that auto paint shop or whatever. There's some areas there. I mean, and I imagine elsewhere on the trail, there's just some places that it might be helpful just to mark them so people don't trip over them or whatever. I mean, I'd be amenable to sort of doing that again, but I'll probably need to get some additional paint to mark them.
Peter, did you just get that paint at Manchester's?
Yes. David, did you use the inverted spray? Did you get into the shed?
I did get into the shed. I didn't use like the sprayer that you put the can in. I just used the can with sort of, you know, the narrow nozzle, and you just sort of flip it down to spray it, and that worked fine.
Oh, okay. Well, there's 2 style long arm sprayers there. One for that particular can and one for the other style can.
Oh.
I don't know if you weren't aware of that.
I didn't really. I figured it'd just be easier to use the can itself.
Yeah, okay. Well, whatever you like, but there's 2. Both of those are 2 different style sprayers for the 2 different style cans that we do stock there. But you say there's no more white in there at all?
Right.
You can just go to Manchester's. If you want to do it, just go to Manchester's and you can just put it on the bike path account.
Okay.
Yeah, we have an account there, so you can just, if you want to do it,
And well, if you want, all right, I can pick that up and restock the shed. That's not a big deal. They know me in there as the trail guru anyway.
That's true. Peter, if you want to do that, then then you'll know what kind we have been using, and you can just get a couple cans probably.
Yeah, I would stop at the trail first just to make sure I know what he used and then what we're out of there, and then I'd restock. David, doing it, how many cans do you feel you'd need?
Well, I mean, there are sections of the trail I'm much more familiar with because they're within walking distance. So out down toward Route 5, I don't usually go that far. I mean, I think if people have a sense of there are some problem areas that, we might want to mark the routes, if we can sort of keep a running list and, I can sort of drive to a closer point and then go to those. But
I think, well, basically we're looking to have you mark just the more dangerous, highest. The trail's loaded with cracks, let's face it, but.
And I wasn't thinking about marking the cracks, just the ones, that, are protruding upward that
really heaving up. Yeah, okay.
And truthfully, we probably should look into having those cut out. I know that George and Tim are really busy, but to have them cut those out and patch them is probably the ones that are really bad, that needs to be done.
Now, the ones down by the park, are those from the trees that got planted all along there? The park did that, didn't they?
Well, that was part of the Millside Park project, yep.
Yeah.
I know.
That's too bad. I knew those were going to be trouble eventually when I saw them go in, so.
Yeah.
So Peter, do you remember the best time for Tim to tackle those paving projects? I know they're busy in the summer, but they're busy in the fall too, but you can't do it too late because of the paving material isn't available. So when do we just have to get on his list and?
Yeah, well, getting on his list isn't going to happen. You got to talk to him and remind him. Yeah, I certainly can remind him when I see him, and he was just here not too long ago. I say here in the neighborhood.
I think too, we need to have a really good idea of which ones really need to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can just pinpoint the ones that are really bad, so he's not fussing all over the place,
Yeah, he can't waste his time. That he would be using this as a fill-in in between jobs, or if he had some asphalt work he was going to do, he might try to get there to cut the pavement and then and then work with that. But yeah, the guy is out straight. So
who wants to David, do you want to kind of go out and do a survey and really look at the places that you think are the worst and make a little list so we can see what George and Tim can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll sort of do that over time. I'm not likely to want to take longer walks when it's as hot as it's been, because to sort of do each section, it's not going to be all just, I'm going to have to drive to sort of,
Right.
Like
I would think, Wendy, you probably know the South Street section pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of it is kind of in the center. Is that the truth? Yeah.
I think if you started at South Street and if you parked at South Street and walked, or actually I think riding your bike is easier because when you hit those bumps, you know it.
Good.
Sometimes you can't. Oh, you rode your bike?
No, I don't have one.
Oh, you don't have a bike?
No, I'm a perambulator. I walk.
Oh, because when you're riding, you get jolted. I mean, I think that's a good way to measure the worst ones because you get thrown. I mean, but if maybe, like Barb said, if you've got them marked, then it would be up to the riders among us to go out and help gather some data on which ones are the worst and that need to be repaired.
Well, maybe as, if people are out there in the next month, they could just kind of, if you're out there on the trail, just kind of take note and jot down the places that you notice. And maybe everybody together we can put together. I mean, I think it really needs to be the really bad spots, not just
Right.
little bumps, but the
Right.
worst.
Right. There are plenty of big ones. We won't get to the little ones, but
So Peter, in terms of how much paint, I would say, at least a couple, 2 or 3 cans of that white spray paint with the thin nozzles.
All right, I'll pick up 3 cans, but I'll do an inventory check before I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I also-
Peter,
I
maybe
do-
you should check and see if we need other colors, like any black or,
Oh, for like, or gray, which is what I covered graffiti on the fence with.
yeah.
I used up a bunch of the gray. It was primer paint on some of the graffiti, just east of the Ferry Street project. So that's low too.
Gray paint?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
thank you for doing that, to go out and check those out. That's great.
Yeah. Just, I see that there are a couple people who I don't know. I don't know if you're here just to watch and listen, or if you had anything that you wanted to bring up while you're here. I see there's 2 people.
This is Manny from Dunkin' Donuts.
Hello.
How's everyone doing today? I just completely forgot, got caught up with the time, and I said, but I'm going to call in to find out. I just got an email from Jeff late this afternoon to join in. I don't know if you guys already talked about the proposed parking on the project on 5 and 9 East Street.
We did. Jeff was on.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning, we talked about it. I think our general kind of leaning is that we hate to lose big trees right there.
Okay.
But we do think that there is value for both you and for the trail users to have a connection, even if it's a path or a small stairway. But I think you probably should talk to Jeff, but
Okay.
I think we're tending to think that if the parking spaces can't be done without taking down some really nice big mature maples, we're a little hesitant about that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Everybody, please chime in, because that,
No, that sounds right.
I concur.
Well, we appreciate the idea, though. We're glad that you're interested in connecting, and it seemed like a good idea until we started looking at the trees and the logistics and so forth. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
We haven't, one of the things I'm going to ask the engineers to do is maybe we'll walk the property and kind of pinpoint where the big trees are and where that retaining wall, if we do the parking, is going to be. And if, maybe we can accomplish both. And if not, it was, like you said, it was a great idea. It was, Jeff was the one who actually brought it up, and it's like, sure. I mean, but we'll see.
yeah, and looking at the site plan, Jeff was kind of saying that, say the parking spaces go away, but maybe we could still have a stairway or a connection. It might be better to have it in a different location, like in the back corner where there's a bunch of knotweed and not big trees. So
I know exactly. So maybe come up right by next to the dumpsters.
yes, yeah, in that general area.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because we're tending to think that people are gonna find a way to come up there, and it might as well make it easier for everybody.
I bike, so I'm a biker and a runner. So it would be nice just to ride the bike to the Dunkin'. So,
Right. So, but Jeff can, talk to Jeff about it.
yeah, I will then.
And
I apologize.
Yeah, and we understand there's a long ways to go, and there's a lot of discussion to be said.
Absolutely.
But
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And NFD 881-1977, you're just visiting? Okay, anyway. All right.
You're on You're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Yeah. John, do you have any update as far as the lights? John Lucido?
I wonder if he didn't log out.
Oh, maybe. John, you're there?
Here. Sorry about that. I don't have an update. I did call the school. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I did call the school, and they're obviously trying to figure out what they're going to do this upcoming year. So, but he said he's on site, so I was thinking, he said to come down there in the morning around 10 o'clock, so I'm thinking of going down there tomorrow and catch up with him.
Yeah.
And maybe we can just we're going to take a walk along the trail. And after we discuss it, he's going to have, I think I told you this in the last meeting, we talked about this, is he's going to have someone from the lighting company come and make suggestions about fixtures.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured that with all that's been going on, it's not been on the top of their priority list.
Right. But it is, if the kids actually come back, even a percentage, it still is a concern for them because of the how dark it is, and that the kids always walk the trail anyway to get from not only just the campus itself, but even from the rink.
Oh, right.
And it's pretty dark, the whole way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, keep us updated.
I mean, I'll keep you posted. It took me a while to even, get a hold of somebody that could give me any information, because obviously they're trying to figure it out too.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. So is there anything else that we need to talk about? No. Okay. Do we want to look at next month's meeting date for next month? I'm going to be kind of busy at the end of the month with early voting in the primary. So I don't know if the 17th is a date that might work for people.
Sure.
Might not work for me, but I'm having family, grandchildren in that we haven't seen in 6 months, so probably be busy with them.
Okay. Yeah, the 24th and the 31st, I can tell, are just going to be really not good for me. We could do, I mean, we don't have to meet on, how long are your grandkids going to be? Are they going to be there
Just for a couple days, probably the 15th. I don't know exactly, maybe through the 18th, 19th. I don't know.
Okay.
Why don't we just meet early September, like the first week in September? Oh, no, that's a holiday, right?
I mean, we could go to September.
The 14th of September?
We could give ourselves a little break and do the 14th of September.
Yeah, and by then we will have seen what the planning board meeting comes up with.
Right. Yeah, why don't people try to mark the 25th on their calendar?
Yeah, I got that written down.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So the 14th, can we do 7 o'clock though, Barb, instead of 6:30 is kind of.
Why? What do you have to do, Wendy?
Dinner time. I mean,
come on, eat a little early. No, 7 o'clock is fine.
We're not that old that we eat at 5 o'clock.
Well, if you have a meeting, you do.
I know. I'll do what everybody wants. It's
Wendy,
just a request.
You can eat while you're at a meeting. You just turn your video off.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
All right, we'll do 7 o'clock. That's fine. So September 14th at 7 o'clock?
Yep.
That sound good?
Yep, got it.
Okay.
Saved.
All right.
Can I have a, Barb?
Yep.
I have a request. When you send out the reminder, when the meeting time gets closer, can you also include the Zoom link again? Because it was when you put it in the original announcement, it was over a month ago. I had to go. It was
I couldn't find it. That took me a while.
It's right on the agenda.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I send the agenda, and I resent the agenda today.
But
Okay, I didn't see it.
All of
Okay,
the
I see
meetings,
now.
including the planning board meeting, the Zoom link is right on the agenda. So all you have to do is find the agenda, and the Zoom link is there.
I hadn't even noticed that box with all that stuff in it. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
but Barb, the agenda comes in as a PDF, correct?
Yeah.
You can't click on anything in the PDF.
All you need is the meeting ID number. That's it.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to manually type in the thing. If
Yeah.
it's in the PDF, you just can't click on it. You have to manually type the number in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only
Copy
a
and
few
paste it.
numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
I just write it down and just type the numbers in.
If you clicked on the PDF, the whole PDF highlights.
Oh, yeah.
Try it, you'll see you probably won't be able to individualize that particular line in a PDF.
Yeah. No, all you have to do is just write the number down and just.
Yeah.
It's easy,
Okay.
but
Old school.
Hey, Barb, what time is the planning board meet?
I am guessing that it's probably going to be 6, but I would keep an eye on the city website.
Okay,
I mean, they usually meet, I think, at 6.
all
And
right.
you'll send us an announcement?
You'll send out a reminder to us anyway, right?
Yeah, I'll try to do that. That is during early voting though, so, but I'll try. Send reminder. I think Jeff said he was going to send some information too, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter, could you let Barb know when you get the paint and she can let me know and I can get the shed keys?
I certainly can, David. That's not a problem. That was going to be my plan.
Okay, thanks.
How you doing? Doing okay, Peter? You look good.
Yeah, we're slowly improving, but it's baby steps. The heat obviously doesn't help for me, but if I do something, I'll do it early in the morning when it's cool, and that's when I'll probably do that for you, David, and get it over there, and then I'll let Barb know right away.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Good
All
to
right,
see.
everybody. So stay cool and enjoy your August, and we'll see you in September.
All
Okay,
right.
Barb.
Right.
Okay.
Stay
All right.
well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.